All right, guys, today we're talking about what is going on in national parks in 2023. In this video, I'm going to be talking about which parks will be requiring reservations and what visitors of all kinds can expect in 2023 when visiting our U.S. national parks. As you know, during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw many national parks implementing brand new pilot programs for reservation systems. This was in large part to reduce capacity and overuse at many of the popular parks in the United States. And people had mixed responses, as you would imagine, to these new reservation systems, which really attempted to control the amount of vehicles into the parks. And it seems that some of the parks are getting rid of them or changing them, while others are renewing them. But luckily, there's only 9 national parks that have some sort of reservation in 2023. This list is as follows: Acadia National Park in Maine, Arches National Park in Utah, Glacier National Park in Montana, Haleakala National Park in Hawaii, Rocky Mountain in Colorado, followed by Shenandoah in Virginia, Yosemite here in California, then Zion and Muir Woods. Now, let me get into the nitty-gritty of each of these national parks and what exactly they do have for reservations, starting with Acadia. Now, while there is no reservation required for entrance into the main part of Acadia National Park, you will need a reservation to drive the Cadillac Summit Road. Cadillac Summit Road is this fantastic roadway that goes up to the top of Mount Desert Island. At the top, you have these fantastic views where you can see not only the ocean, but you can see the rest of Bar Harbor, and it's really beautiful. And there's a reason why there's a permit for this road, because in years past, the traffic has been horrendous on both ways going up and down. And it's really not only caused a lot of infrastructure issues at the park, but it's lessened everyone's experience as well. There's very limited parking at the top. So one of the reasons they implemented this system was to control that parking. Basically, if you get a permit to be able to go to the top, you're almost guaranteed a parking spot, and that's pretty great. Reservations for the Cadillac Summit Road can begin being booked April 15th, and that's for a time period of May 24th through October 22nd. Keep in mind, if you are going to Acadia, this road is also going to be under construction in early summer and may have temporary closures. So always just make sure you're checking the status of road closures on the national park websites. The next one that's going to be continuing on with their reservation systems is Arches National Park. They are going to be having their reservations from April to October between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. This is almost one more month than last year, so they've definitely expanded it. Now, reservations can be made 3 months in advance in monthly blocks starting in January and going through July, with a limited number of tickets available 1 day prior at 6 p.m. Okay, I know that was a lot. These reservations, one of the issues that I have with them is that at every park where they have these, they're different. In general, reservations open on the first of the month, 3 months prior to when you want to visit. And if you don't book on that first day, you probably won't get a ticket for that time period. So make sure, if you're planning on going to a national park that has a reservation, let's say in August, that you're looking in May for that reservation. And most of these parks also do have last minute, day before reservations, as Arches does and as Rocky Mountain does, as I'm going to get into that in a second. And these can be booked generally at 5 or 6 p.m. for the following day. But as I said, these go really quickly, especially if you're at one of the busy parks at height of the season. So if you're wondering why they're doing this, well, between 2011 and 2021, Arches grew over 73%, from just 1 million visitors to over 1.8 million visitors, which is a dramatic rise in visitation. There were increased wait lines at the park and congested parking, as well as crowding on trails, which can definitely negatively impact people's visitor experiences. I've actually been to Arches several times, and if you're planning on going to Arches in that window of from May to October, and for instance, maybe you can't get a ticket, definitely go in before 7 a.m. And if you can't do that, maybe you're not an early bird, that's fine. Get a camping reservation or something of that nature. You can also do like a wilderness permit. There are some not very many wilderness camping spots that you can do in Arches, but there's also some great camping spots within Arches. And when you book those, you're going to get a pass to get into the park as well. So it's a great kind of workaround. Next on the list, Glacier National Park. I got to go here last year. Such an amazing park. If you're planning to visit this park, listen up, as this park actually changed a lot from last year. In 2023, you're actually going to be now required to have a separate reservation for all 4 areas of the park, which is a change from last year, which only required reservations for West Glacier and the North Fork area. Now you're going to need one in addition to the 2 Medicines area and many glaciers, and they're all separate, so it's going to be interesting if you're going to Glacier. Now, because the dates vary, I'm actually going to put this on the screen as which area needs a reservation when. Many glaciers and 2 Medicines start in July. The west side of the park starts in May. So keep that in mind. Make sure you get a reservation far in advance. And a workaround for that also is staying at one of the park lodges if you can afford it. They are very expensive, but this will give you access to these sections of the park as well. Now, also if you're visiting Glacier, you'll want to know that the Going to the Sun Road is going to be under construction, and like Acadia, you might have times when the road is closed or not accessible from both sides. Now, if you can't get a reservation for Glacier, don't fret. Look for hotel reservations, look for camp reservations. You can also try to get a backpacking permit to get you access into the park as well. This is a park I've never been to, Haleakala National Park. It's in Hawaii. It's on the island of Maui. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right because I'm actually not sure. And this park also doesn't have a reservation to get into the main part of the park, but if you want to go in at sunrise to see Haleakala Peak, which is the tallest peak in Maui at just over 10,000 feet, and has been a really popular thing to do for over 100 years in this park, you will need a reservation. Starting between 3 a.m. and going until 7. This starts April 7th, and you can book a reservation up to 60 days in advance and 2 days in advance of the starting date. Kind of weird. One day, these will all be streamlined. The next one is Rocky Mountain National Park. I love this park. The reservation system is back for the 4th year now, and it goes from May 26th to October 22nd, a little bit longer than last year. It's going to be pretty similar to how it worked last year. Reservations open May 1st. One permit will be for the Bear Lake corridor, which includes a lot of the really popular hikes. And then there's a second one that will give you access to the rest of the park. Now, this reservation period will be from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Yeah, that second permit is for the rest of the park, which excludes Bear Lake corridor. And that reservation period is going to be from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're an early riser, you can definitely get into Rocky Mountain if you want to go at 7 or 8 a.m., just not into the Bear Lake corridor. One of the new things here is that you'll actually be able to leave and return into the Bear Lake corridor if you do have one of those special reservations, which they didn't allow before. And another new thing here at Rocky Mountain is that as opposed to just having 30% of the tickets available for day before, they're going to have 40%. So that's pretty great. A little bit more for those last minute visitors. Hopping on over to the East Coast, we've got Shenandoah National Park. And if you want to visit this park, you can. There's no reservations needed. But if you want to visit Old Rag Mountain, you will need a day use permit. Reservations will need to be made for any dates between March 1st and November 30th. Now, this park I was just at in December, Yosemite National Park, located here in California in the Eastern Sierras. A big change from just 2 years ago is that they will no longer be requiring reservations for Yosemite, with the exception of a couple of dates in the end of February, weekends in February, when Firefall is happening. Because that's happening right now, I'm not going to get too much into detail about these specific dates. But I also want to say that when it comes to Yosemite, I wouldn't put it off the table that things are going to change throughout the year. If I think it gets really busy again in summer, I would not be surprised at all if the reservation system came back. Another Utah classic is Zion National Park. Here again, no reservations are required, but You will need a reservation to hike Angel's Landing, as I was saying earlier, but remember that most of the year, Zion Canyon Scenic Drive is actually closed to personal vehicles, and it's going to require that you take the shuttle, walk, or bike into the park. And this is usually from March to November, and also on holidays and weekends in February and March. So if you're planning on driving through Zion, know that you really can't do that most of the year. So you will either have to rent an e-bike, which I've done in Zion, or hop on the shuttle, which last year required reservations, and they aren't going to do that this year. The last one is Muir Woods National Monument. Now, this is also north of San Francisco. They require reservations for all vehicles and people that are going to be riding the shuttle as well. Now, this is a beautiful place. It's full of towering redwood trees, and it's just absolutely stunning. There's two ways to get here. You can either park in an external parking lot outside of the park and take a shuttle. You'll need a reservation to get on that shuttle. You'll also need a reservation to get into the park. And the other option is getting a reservation, which includes a time and date, and then parking in the park. You'll need a parking reservation as well. So a little bit confusing there as well. Now, if you're trying to figure out where you can get these reservations, it's pretty easy. You just go to recreation.gov, you'll want to create an account, and then you can just do it on their mobile app or online as well. You can also call the reservation line at most of these parks as well. Now, if you're looking for other ways to get into the national parks, you can check out one of the free entrance days. Now, one of these already passed by us in January. The next one is going to be April 22nd, which is Earth Day. And then we've got August 4th, September 23rd, and November 11th. Now, these days are usually really busy, so unless this is the only time you can really go to a national park, I definitely wouldn't recommend it.